Welcome everybody. It is Business Monday here at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Josh Fenton. This is Justin Kerr from Justin Kerr Design. It's a gloomy Monday after the great holiday weekend, but we kind of have some news, and you guys are sparking some stuff in Rhode Island. Talk a little bit about your design shop. You're 3 years at it. This is a design center, it literally is. Talk a little bit about your business.
Thanks. Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
And, as you said, it's my 3rd year in business, and I am a graphic designer, trained graphic designer, and design consultant. So basically what I do is I help businesses be clear, strong, and consistent in their visual marketing.
Not an easy task.
No, not an easy task, but that is the goal.
Right.
So where my business lives is sort of in the space between marketing agencies and freelance designers. So where I live and where I'm able to do my best work is sitting down with either solopreneurs and consulting with them and helping them get their marketing strategy together and their design strategy, or I can customize a team of professionals and work with small to mid-sized businesses on long-term, larger projects, or even a series of projects. So one of the benefits of being, agile like that is I can customize a team. So I have a great network of writers, programmers, photographers, videographers, whatever the project needs, and I can assemble the team I need and execute.
You've done a great swath of work, everything from Adoption Rhode Island, where you rebuilt their mark and created a logo that's much more timely, shall we say, but also kind of classic. And you stayed away from all the cliches that mark might lend itself to, right?
Yeah, well, you didn't see all the sketches. So
you tried all the cliches and then got away from them?
Well, you have to get all that stuff out of the way first, and then, you can get to the good stuff.
And then, all the way to cool online for Pet Sitters International, is that the name of it?
Yeah.
Which is really a digital play, right? I mean, a much more, seems that the implications of the design work you did there was a lot of applications for apps and the web and etc.
Yes, that was a complicated web platform, but what they had before really wasn't serving their needs. So, I was part of a team that developed that new website. We did a little bit of rebranding for them, not too much, but it was really about getting them a website that all of their members could access easily, update all their information, and use it as a resource for getting, allowing people to find a pet sitter for their dog or cat or even fish.
Fish sitters?
Yeah.
Is that a growing part of the economy? I know people are crazy about their pets.
Yeah.
Crazy about our chocolate lab. But is fish sitting, is that a growing part of the economy?
Well, some people have very expensive tropical fish, and when they come back from their 2-week vacation wherever, they want to know that those fish were taken care of. So yeah, it's a real thing.
Job retraining for those folks in West Virginia or out of the coal mining industry.
Right.
Fish sitting may be the new opportunity for them economically. Talk a little bit about, one of your coolest projects is for a record company. And I didn't even know we were allowed to call them record companies because, who really makes records anymore? But though it's starting to come back in some genres. Talk a little bit about that project because it's a really cool design application.
Yeah, that was a great opportunity. It's Merge Records. They're based down in Durham, North Carolina, and I was able to work with their art director at the time in sort of a collaborative way to rebrand them and really bring them into the 21st century, because the website that they had prior really didn't have the bandwidth to handle the traffic that was coming to them, and they really wanted to expand their offerings as far as original content and writing, as well as a built-in audio player so you could sample some of the music and really get a sense of it before you bought it. So it was a monster site. We had a really good team put together for that. And what was interesting was I never really considered myself an indie music fan. But as you get to work with a client, you really have to kind of get into their world and into their space. So I was listening to all sorts of different music and learned to appreciate some artists that I'd never really heard of before. I mean, I'm pretty mainstream top 40, but it was a great experience working with them.
That's great. Was there a little yin and yang of wanting to modernize them, but also be respectful to what they were in the past, and sort of melding that? You know, it's kind of like, you know, what are you going to do with Motown? You're not gonna revamp Motown, right?
Right. Well, fortunately, Merge's branding was fairly transparent. They really do a good job at letting their artists sort of shine through, you know, their brand.
Right.
And so it was really about highlighting their artists and making sure that we were representing them well, and bringing their brands across. And Merge was really just sort of a, you know, a very nondescript sort of container, tried not to get in the way of the different artist brands. I mean, you're dealing with a lot of different artists.
And a lot of genres of music. It wasn't like it was all Motown and it was.
Oh, no, no.
Right. It was
yeah.
You know, the complete collection of independent
yeah.
musicians.
Yeah, and what was interesting was I forget how many years ago we launched that site, but one of their artist groups hit it really big. Just as the site launched, and there was such a surge of traffic to the site that it crashed the server. So we instantly had to expand and get them some more bandwidth.
It's always great to crash the server. We broke, sadly, the story of Buddy Ciancy's death, and that lasted all of about 20 minutes as the site crashed, and took about an hour to get repaired and revamped,
yeah.
and restructured.
It is a little bit of badge honor. You're like, hey, we did so well, we crashed the server.
We broke the internet.
Right.
You know, you were in-house in agencies. You were in-house at colleges and universities.
Mm-hmm.
You've got deep experience, RISD grad, been in the market for a while. Talk about owning your own place. You know, this hour we have on Mondays is really about talking about entrepreneurship and what the challenges are. And let's go with the challenges. What's the biggest challenges for that young designer who's hating the man at their job right now? What is the warnings you might want to put? The flare gun shot that says, before you jump, consider these items. So
okay.
I'll go with the challenges.
Well, I think my advice to a young designer, maybe fresh out of school, is it's okay to work for the man for a while. Because like most graduates, when I got out of school, I had all of this, you know, theory in my head, all of this design knowledge, but I didn't know a thing about working in the real world.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay to spend a little time working for somebody, learning the business, you know, getting some experience and really establishing yourself as a designer before jumping out. But I would recommend getting out probably on your own sooner than I did. You know, I waited about 22 years, so I was a bit of a slow starter. But one of the challenges, of course, is you know your skill set.
Right.
You know how to design. But there's so many things about owning a business, so many different hats that you have to wear. So for me, this last 3 years has been a learning curve of just learning how to be a business person, learning how to network, learning how to take care of all of the legal stuff that you have to take care of and handle books and all of that stuff that goes on sort of behind the scenes when you're working for somebody, but
right.
when you're on your own, you're the guy
yeah.
or you're the girl. You know,
yeah.
you're the one that has to take care of all that. So I was very fortunate to make connections right away with a lot of great business professionals that taught me how to network, taught me how to go find leads, taught me all those things that I just never had to bother with before.
Yeah, right. And what's been the biggest surprise? The thing that you just didn't anticipate? Did I trigger something on that?
Well, yeah. I've always considered myself a bit of an introvert.
Yeah.
But I discovered that I really enjoy networking. I
yeah.
really enjoy meeting new people.
So you're at those 5 o'clock chamber things all the time?
Yeah.
With the guys from the phone companies and the cocktail places?
Yeah. But I really enjoy meeting people. As a matter of fact, one of the things I've gotten involved with lately is being a volunteer advisor at Social Enterprise Greenhouse, which is a great organization. And once a month I go in and offer some of my time to advise people on branding and design. And I've just met some of the most fascinating people, solopreneurs, startups, and I found that I really do enjoy it. And I always feel like it enriches me because you learn things that you didn't know before.
That's great. And then what's been we talked a little bit about the challenges. What's been the greatest, sense of satisfaction? What's been the biggest accomplishments that's come out of it? I think, as an entrepreneur, you move so fast, you'd really never take a second to enjoy it. There's no big parties. There's no
no.
We just clicked over our first billion user on Facebook type of thing.
Right.
But talk about the sort of sense of satisfaction that you've realized.
I think for me, I've always enjoyed doing what I do. I've always enjoyed being a designer, helping people solve their problems, visually. But being able to do it in a way that suits me, sort of setting my own pace, going out and finding those clients that I really want to work with, that I believe in what they're doing, I feel like I can best help them, and being able to sort of customize, my business to my passions, I think has been the greatest satisfaction. They say when you go into your business, you work twice as long for half the pay. And I found that to be true. But I really do enjoy working with the clients that I have. And I really do like setting my own schedule.
Do you get a sense that you've changed, gotten a little more capitalistic, a little more cursing tax policy, things like that, fees that the state government charges, all those kind of little things?
There are definitely things that I've discovered business-wise that I do not enjoy, which is why I begged my wife, please be my bookkeeper, because I don't want to do this anymore, and I don't think I'm even really doing a good job, so please, keep us out of prison, take over the books. But yeah, there's, fortunately for designers, there's not a whole lot of regulation or certification.
Right.
We kind of operate under the radar as far as that goes. But there have been things, filling out government forms and things like that, which are tedious. But even, working for large organizations like universities and stuff, being a preferred vendor, there are a lot of hoops you have to jump through there, a lot of paperwork. So I don't particularly care for the bureaucracy of it, but sometimes it's necessary.
You worked with Commerce and through one of their programs. Talk a little bit about which program and what the experience has been, and be honest. I always try and goad the guest into what the downside of it was.
It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare.
No. Thank you so much.
Actually, it was a very enjoyable experience. Commerce Rhode Island has been very good. I first met Doris Blanchard at Commerce through a networking event, and she told me about a event that they were going to be putting on where they were going to bring in a lot of sort of non-traditional lenders to give a little workshop on how you could access some of those funds. So, I was in that position of needing a little bit of financial help and really not having the opportunity to go to a traditional lending institution and get a loan, a business loan. So I went and checked it out. I met, one of the individuals there I met was Buck from Community Investment Corporation, and he was extremely helpful, very friendly, very easy to work with, and managed to get me my first microloan.
That's great.
Yeah.
And paperwork-wise, a lot of process or minimal, or?
Actually,
did they lose it in their Akron office or anything like that? You're an Ohio guy.
Right. No, I mean, I would say, what I got as far as paperwork and that, it was probably what I expected because I had already gone through some of that with other organizations. Yeah. So it certainly was better than dealing with city and state government. Yeah. But pretty painless, I would say, altogether.
And then what's been your growth strategy over the last 3 years? What are you trying to achieve? Where do you want to get to? Are you looking to, we talked in the green room sort of about the Malcolm Greer model, a famous, iconic designer, Olympics, CVS's logo, Department of Health and Human Services, passed away about a few years ago. I don't want to, 2-3 years ago, but his agency continues to bloom. He's a famous professor at RISD as well, obviously.
Yeah, actually, I had him for several different courses when I was at RISD, and one of my heroes. Yeah. I really like his aesthetic and his philosophy of design. So, yeah, if I could be the next Malcolm Greer, that would be fantastic. But my growth strategy is not to necessarily grow the agency to a certain number of people. I really do like being sort of a independent creative director, and that gives me the chance to work with a lot of different individuals and continue to grow my network of professionals. So I really like the ability to sort of customize a team to fit any project. So I don't know if I'll ever really become a traditional agency in that sense, but I definitely want to continue to expand my client base and gain exposure for my business. And I appreciate you having me on today. So that certainly helps.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But just I would say grow in a slow way in order to be able to continue to serve my existing clients while continuing to add to my network.
Great. If folks, is there certain types of work you want that you think your firm's the best at? I mean, if I'm watching you, everybody has a design need, right? I mean, literally as we're standing here, I'm clicking through all the things we need to work with. We'll talk in the other room.
Okay, all right.
But, is there any type of genre, is there any kind of, the world's changed so much. You used to think of things as one-dimensional, you thought of them as print. Maybe, depending on the organization, it would expand to video.
Right.
Now it's completely changed in a digital world,
Yeah.
And we've delivered around 2 billion ads. We've had hundreds of advertisers, and sometimes you see these companies come over and we just did a new logo, and it's a very horizontal logo. And you go, well, there's a designer who doesn't know that there's the internet, right?
Right.
Because that horizontal logo just isn't going to work on a 300 by 250 ad unit.
No.
Or a 160 by 600 kind of situation.
You make an excellent point. I mean, developing an identity for a business or a brand for them, it has to be versatile.
Yeah.
And you have to consider everywhere where it might be.
Right.
Back in the day when I was in school, and it was pretty much, this was before the web, even then you had to consider in print format where it might be. It might be, on a pin, or it might be on the side of a bus, or it might be, as Malcolm used to say, it might be carved in ice.
Yeah.
So you have to consider all of these things. But now with digital, there's so many other platforms that you have to consider. And I think the mark of a good designer is one that actually takes into consideration all of the permutations that it might take to get this out there and to help market the business. A friend of mine who runs a local agency does a lot of branding work. He's an excellent designer. Said to me that when he sits down with his clients and talks to them about an identity, he talks to them in regards to developing a system instead of just a stamp. A single mark that you just end up stamping everywhere. It's really a living system that can adapt and can grow and scale with the business.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations on the success.
Thank you.
Congratulations on breaking out on your own. Now the only one you have to curse is yourself.
Yes.
Damn the man.
Yeah.
Damn, I am the man.
Exactly.
Congratulations. We really appreciate you taking the
Thank
time. Folks, look for it tomorrow. There'll be a write-up, all the hyperlinks to learn more about his agency. And see if you've got the need to tap into a smart design firm to enhance your corporate identity or strategic communications need. We're going to be right back in 1 second with one of the most interesting pseudo-entrepreneurs, finance, nonprofit. He's got it all going on, Andrew Posner. We'll be right back in about 1 minute. Welcome back, everybody, to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Josh Fenton. It is Business Monday. One of our favorite entrepreneurs in Rhode Island. Feel like we've grown up. Capital Good Fund, one of the most innovative finance structures to really help people deal with complex financial situations and avoid the traps of some of the predatory lending structures that are out there, payday lending, high interest rates and things like that. And you've just done a remarkable job in building the organization, the structure, and the trust factor. Is that a kind of the key factor in all this, the trust factor?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. Yeah, I think certainly when you're making loans to people, particularly those who don't have access to traditional loans and usually are forced to depend on very, very high interest loans, like payday lending, if you're familiar, in Rhode Island charges an average of 261%. And people go there because they don't have any other options. And so we're a nonprofit, we're offering much lower rates, but still, you know, here we come in, and are we just another place doing the same type of lending? Right. So building trust is absolutely critical.
And let's go through them all. 4 states now, Rhode Island, Massachusetts,
Delaware, and Florida.
Delaware
we're headquartered here just about 2 miles from the office here in downtown Providence.
And how's it been running a company from here and expanding into other markets? What have been some of the challenges with that? Because that's not, speaking as we've done it, it's not always an easy task.
Yeah, and the idea for Capital Good Fund actually came while I was getting my master's at Brown. And one of the things that was nice is that Providence is small, it was easy to get connected to the community. So this was a perfect place to get started because this was in 08, 09, coming out of the recession. I could come down and really start to talk to people who were being affected by the financial collapse and learn about their needs, talk to community groups, and then this is a really manageable place to get started. I was able to build relationships with the government, with community groups, with funders, community leaders. But as we started to get bigger, and we now have 29 staff, and like you said, are in 4 states, it can start to be a disadvantage because a lot of the big funders in our space are, you know, Citibanks, the JP Morgans, they focus a lot more on other markets. So while it's a great place to get started, it's created some challenges for expansion.
And you hit a milestone. How much is out on the street?
Yeah.
6 million lent?
Yes. So we've now done 3,300 loans. We just crossed $6 million financed to low-income families, most of that in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And we have a 96% repayment rate.
Right. And what happens in the non-repayments?
Well, we work with clients to the extent possible. All of our loans are unsecured except for our auto loan. And we report payments to the credit bureaus. So as you're making your loan payment, you get to build your credit score, which is absolutely critical. If for some reason, basically the way we say it is, if there's 3 months of non-contact, non-communication on payment, we have to write off the loan, and that just means that it shows up as a written off loan on your credit report. We don't take people to court. We don't sell to collection agencies.
There's no subdivision named Vito who
goes
to collect.
There's no knee breaking. No, it's all equitable, and as long as someone's communicating with us, we'll restructure, we'll work with them. But again, 96% of the time, that doesn't even become an issue.
As you go into Massachusetts and Florida, big markets, you know, in Rhode Island, the great thing is, you know, you can see the governor for breakfast, and you can talk to, you know, Neil Steinberg at lunch, and you can go talk to whomever you need to within a day. In Florida, there's big cities up and down the coast. It's a big market. Yeah. How do you get the word out in Florida? Have you started with a specific market and say we're going to do Tampa and win Tampa, or are you trying to spread the word to nonprofit partners throughout the state?
Yeah, all of the above. I mean, one of the things is we're an online lender, so while we do see people in our Providence office predominantly, people apply online. And Florida, one of the reasons we expanded there was there's a $3 billion plus need for our products and several million people. So there's a lot of potential clients, and yes, we do all of the above. We work with all sorts of nonprofit partners, just like we do in Rhode Island. We do online advertising, and then in any of our markets, if you Google emergency loan, payday alternative, subprime auto loan, anything like that, we're going to come up because we're the only place that offers loans at our rates to people who can't get bank loans.
Gotcha. And what's the biggest loans you do?
So our loans go from $300, which is, for things like vehicle repair or catching up on utilities, all the way up to $25,000, and that's going to be for buying a car or energy efficiency upgrades in your home. And then we do loans for other purposes, like applying for citizenship, security deposit on an apartment, buying a computer, holiday gifts, all sorts of things like that.
Have you thought about, I'm sure you have, and I'm sure you do, about expanding the product offerings? Are you thinking about mortgages? Are you thinking about more opportunities? And are you thinking about business loans for small business, micro lending, that type of thing into small business development?
When we first got started, we did a little bit of small business lending, and we weren't very good at it. It's very difficult to do, so we've really specialized.
Running small businesses is a difficult thing to do.
Running small businesses and lending to them is very difficult, yes. And mortgages, that's also very difficult, but we've started to offer new products. So for instance, we recently launched an immigration bond loan for people who are detained and a judge offers them bond. The average is $7,500. So now we'll do a loan so they can get out of detention and work with an attorney on their legal case.
Right. And 4 states, $6 million. Where are we 2019? Where are we in 2020? What's that? Do you have that map on the wall with pieces moving? Is it kind of like a Risk or Stratego or something like that?
Yeah. So we're a nonprofit, but we do charge interest, and right now that interest covers 25% of our operating expenses. Our goal is for that to be 100% so that we're not entirely dependent on grants and donations, which can be fickle. Right. And to do that, we need to grow our loan portfolio to $68 million from $4 million outstanding today. And that's
You've done the math. Clearly, you've done the math, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's a spreadsheet on your computer.
There's a detailed spreadsheet, detailed projections. And so the reason we expand to additional states is to get there. And next year, our goal is to make $10 million in loans. Right. We're hoping to expand into Illinois sometime in the first quarter of next year. And then from there, it's really just going to be growing within our markets.
And what do you see the difference? Is it the type of need that's different in Massachusetts versus Rhode Island, or Florida versus Rhode Island? Like, we are United States, but there's some peculiarities of each market. What are you seeing there?
The experience of low-income people in any of these states is going to be very similar in terms of their inability to access bank or credit union loans, and therefore their reliance on high-interest loans. What's different is weather. Yeah. So for instance, in the winter, we see some people who need help catching up on loans or need loans for their utilities. In Florida, whenever there's a hurricane or something like that, then we get more people applying for loans to fix their car, or because they had to stay in a hotel, or people who fall behind a little bit. That's the only state that's not in New England. Right. Has different geography. And then also in New England, we do loans for heating and cooling, mostly energy efficiency kind of things. We don't do that in Florida because it's not as necessary in terms of energy efficiency. But
is cars the big thing? Is that the lifeblood to a low income person who's working poor? That without the car, everything breaks down. Is that just too often what the situation is?
That's certainly it. And we see two things. One is people get offered a job and don't have reliable transportation, so they can't take the job, or their car breaks down and it forces them to sometimes lose their job, or they finance the repair of the car with a very high interest loan that eats up all their money. But either way, it's a critical issue. And of course, there's daycare and groceries and health, all those things that one needs a car for. But one of the other things is, suppose you have found an apartment that's in a good school district that you can afford, but then you find yourself unable to come up with a security deposit and moving expenses. Right. That can be a very big deal. Like, for instance, if you're a domestic violence survivor, the inability to move can be a life and death kind of decision. So our ability to make a loan for that expense is incredibly life-changing.
And it's big money. If you've got 3 children and you absolutely need a 2-bedroom apartment, and it's in a decent neighborhood and the rent's $1,700 a month, and you
Yes.
can just put it all together, but they want first, last, and a security deposit, you know, it's $5,000.
Exactly.
Right.
It's one of the reasons people don't move. And if you're just making it, you're not going to be able to build up that kind of savings.
So we've seen a period of time, you started coming out of the, right at really the peak of the Great Recession, and, you know, we hear talk of record employment in Rhode Island and virtually no unemployment in many of the measures, but we haven't seen a lot of wage increases. Right. And that hasn't allowed people to really improve their financial situation in a lot of circumstances. Is that the big worry, that as we will hit another recession at some point, and we'll really have a massive number of folks who are kind of working poor, hardworking, working 1 and 2 jobs, and they have no ability to adjust in the case of an economic downturn?
Yeah.
Is that going to get you to your 68 million? I mean, are you sort of reverse economy, bad economy is good for you?
Well, I wouldn't say that, because even now, yeah, to your point, wage growth is an issue, and as well as rising cost of living. So transportation, heating, housing, all of those costs are going up. Wages are stagnant.
Right.
Our population is certainly susceptible to recession, because if they lose a job, they don't have much of a backstop. And we're very worried as well about cuts to food stamps and welfare, and I mean all those things that protect people in the case of a recession. So no, an economic downturn would increase the need for our loans, but it's not good for us because there's already plenty of need. And actually, the better off people are, the more effective we become, because we, instead of helping people deal with an emergency, we can help them invest in an asset. So instead of $300 to catch up on utilities because they were sick for a month, they can get a $10,000 loan to buy a new car that's going to help them get to that new job.
And build up some wealth via the new job, higher wage,
Exactly.
more flexibility, etc. The Boston Globe did a series on race in Boston, specifically looking primarily at the African American community. In the African American community, on average, households had a net worth of $17, $9,
Yes.
something around there. You know, we've talked a lot, there's a lot of narrative about how the wealthy are getting wealthier. The Guardian just had a big piece Friday about the growth of billionaires in the world. Are we, from what, you know, you're talking to people real time, 3,300?
Oh yeah.
3,300 loans. So you're really talking to folks who have needs. You know, how do we adjust that? Besides great programs like yours, but how do we build up some sustainability for folks to be able to adjust to stagnant wages, increasing costs, and economic vulnerability?
Yeah, so I mean, we're able to achieve tremendous impact on the lives of our clients, helping them build their credit, which enables them to access other loans and increase their savings. But at the end of the day, if wages don't increase, the minimum wage doesn't go up, we don't build more affordable housing, better public transit, you know, better broader public benefits to help people move up or prevent them from backsliding, we're not going to help people build wealth.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, everything's involved. I mean, your education system, college affordability. So we need some structural changes to our economy to really change that, because yeah, and a black family has pennies on the dollar of wealth compared to a white family, and for Latinos it's only a little bit better. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that most black and Latino wealth was wrapped up in their homes,
Right.
and black and Latino families were more likely to get predatory mortgages, and they were therefore more likely to be foreclosed on, and that wiped out trillions of dollars of wealth for vulnerable people.
And Don, what's your favorite success story? Without naming names and confidentiality of that.
Yeah.
But what's one of those that you just like, for all the days that are frustrating that all of us have at work, what's the one you go, God, that's why this is so important?
Yeah, we had someone who came to us who needed funds to apply for her legal permanent residency. And she got a loan to start the process. It ended up getting delayed, and she needed more funds. We made a second loan. And long story short, she became a legal permitted resident, was able to start her own cleaning business, and with the money she earned from that cleaning business, was able to purchase a home in a school district that's really good. And so we got to visit her house with her kids. That's great. You know, she has net worth, right? Her house is worth more than her mortgage. She has equity. She has real assets that she can live with. And I mean, we have hundreds of stories like that.
You moved her out of Potterville, in other words.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Andrew, thank you so much. Congratulations on all the success.
Thank you.
And how is your partnership with Commerce been?
It's been great. So one of our challenges is that not only do we need money for, you know, keeping the lights on and personnel, but we also need the money that we lend out, we borrow it. And what Commerce RI did through a program with Business Development Corp of Rhode Island is they put up a loan guarantee. Oh, nice. With Navigant Credit Union, actually, which I know is a sponsor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Navigant, which is a fantastic institution, then said, okay, we're going to lend you $1 million against that loan guarantee. And that gave us money that we could then use to make thousands of loans over the years in Rhode Island. And so it was in fact, it cost nothing to the state because the loan guarantee has actually now been returned to Business Development Corp Rhode Island, and now it can be used to serve other entities. That's great. And the whole idea of leverage and impact there was fantastic, and it was very easy for us to participate in the program.
It's great. Andrew Posner, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
We're going to be back in about 20 minutes, an early version of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll have Megan Decker on from G Media Studios. I want to thank Andrew and everybody for tuning in today. We'll see you back in a little while here at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Josh Fenton. See you in a bit.